The favorite aircraft for American infantry and a spine-chilling sight for enemy troops fighting on the ground, the A-10 Warthog is one of the most iconic and devastating American legacy jets in the world. Built during the height of the Cold War, the unique warplane was designed to fill a particular gap in America's air combat doctrine. After years of fierce arms races that sought to create the fastest, highest-flying combat aircraft possible, the U.S. found itself with no slow, resilient, low-flying solutions capable of delivering the close air support its ground troops needed. That is, until the Warthog arrived. A heavily armored warplane with a GAU-8A Avenger Gatling gun the size of a truck, it's able to rain 3,900 30mm depleted uranium rounds a minute to devastate even the most resistant enemy ground assets in a matter of seconds. Even so, the remarkable plane was not meant for aerial encounters, mainly due to its low speed. One pilot even described it as, quote, so slow that it runs the constant risk of bird strikes from behind. However, as tensions rise around the world and the likelihood of significant conflict peaks, the U.S. is preparing its Warthog pilots for every possible scenario. In an unprecedented shift in doctrine, the American airmen are learning to dogfight aboard A-10 Warthogs, and the results have surpassed even the highest expectations. For decades, the deafening blast of the Warthog's fireburst has become an emboldening battle cry for American troops on the ground and a harrowing threat for their enemies. Lately, the aircraft's raw power and gun have become a popular meme, with images depicting the Warthog swooping in and unleashing its lethal upon unsuspecting targets. Its reputation is well earned. Few warplanes are more effective in the ground attack role than the A-10 Warthog. During the Vietnam War, the United States lacked slow-moving, low-flying, and durable aircraft that were suitable for effective close air support. The Air Force's fast-flying jets were not well-suited for spotting targets in the dense jungle, as they couldn't fly slowly enough, lacked the fuel for multiple passes, and were not resilient enough to withstand enemy gunfire. Fairchild Republic approached this need with a unique aircraft design that prioritized resiliency, redundancy, and function above all else. The aircraft was almost as wide as it was long, and its fuselage mainly consisted of a giant 30mm rotary cannon with a cockpit on top. The particular job it fulfills gives the aircraft its unique and striking appearance, which deviates drastically from most modern aircraft in the U.S. Air Force's roster. Compared to some of the most famous sleek supersonic fighters the U.S. has at its disposal, the Warthog's straight cantilever, low-wing monoplane wing configuration, its oversized tailplane, and its formidable rear-mounted engines are mostly a reminder of another era. Nevertheless, its vast wingspan and large vertical stabilizers give the aircraft its legendary performance and maneuverability, even when operating just a few dozen feet above the ground, while as slow as 136 miles per hour. Built to last. The aircraft's gun and formidable low speed and low height performance are not the only aspects that make the Warthog an irreplaceable asset for the U.S. military. To accomplish its role as a close air support aircraft, the warplane has to be able to withstand massive amounts of damage. When flying so low and slow in enemy territory, the A-10 immediately becomes a prime target for any enemy unit wielding a weapon. The pilots can expect to be targeted with anything, ranging from conventional anti-aircraft missiles to small arms fire. As such, a titanium armor tub encases most of the plane to safeguard the pilot and a portion of the aircraft's redundant hydraulic flight control system. The armor has a thickness varying from 0.5 to 1.5 inches, with special protection awarded to the cockpit and the pilot. In addition, the front windscreen and the pilot's canopy are bullet resistant, enabling the close air support aircraft to endure direct hits from armor-piercing and high-explosive rounds of up to 23 millimeters, while also deflecting the shrapnel from higher-caliber munitions. But the sheer width of armor plates is not the only way to keep an aircraft safe. The Warthog owes a great deal of its survivability to its unprecedented redundant hydraulic flight control system, which aids in controlling both the firing mechanism and the different control surfaces mounted on the aircraft. The hydraulic motor drives both the belt system and the rotating cam firing system of the barrels, and it's powered by two independent hydraulic systems on board for redundancy. Moreover, the left and right hydraulic systems are pressurized by identical engine-driven pumps, allowing both systems to run the gun. If an engine failure or broken hydraulic line occurs, the affected controls will lose power. However, the plane is designed to operate on one hydraulic system, as both elevators and ailerons. One rotor would still have hydraulic power even after completely losing a single hydraulic system, ensuring pitch, roll, and yaw control. If both systems fail, the aircraft can switch to a manual reversion flight control system, which is challenging to operate, but can still allow the pilot to land safely or maneuver to a safe location for ejection. The focus on redundancy translates into an incredibly remarkable aircraft that can continue to fly and fire its primary weapon, even after being blasted by hundreds of enemy rounds. Ultimately, testing scenarios have proven that the A-10 can still operate with just one engine, one tail wing, and even half of one wing missing. Few warplanes can take as much punishment. Fighting Warthog. Dogfighting has not been a significant concern for most A-10 pilots in action, which also comes from the United States using aircraft as integral components of a larger combat strategy instead of individual assets. This approach involves maximizing the strengths of various platforms and minimizing their vulnerabilities. Therefore, A-10s frequently work in tandem with air superiority fighters, such as the renowned F-15 Eagle, responsible for intercepting enemy aircraft before they can engage with the slower, less agile Warthogs. During a discussion on speed versus stealth in 21st century dogfighting, well-known writer and former F-14 radar intercept officer Ward Carroll emphasized that major wars involving developed nations can become chaotic. In such scenarios, there's always a risk of things not going according to plan. With numerous aircraft involved in combat, it is plausible that a few enemy fighters could slip past an A-10's air superiority partners. If this were to happen, the A-10 would undoubtedly face a challenging situation. However, this does not imply that it would be defenseless. The Air Force has recently adjusted its doctrine, which involves sending its top A-10 pilots to weapons school twice a year. During these sessions, the pilots are taught advanced tactics that they can then share with their respective wings. And despite common misconceptions, they actually begin their training with basic fighter maneuvers, or BFM. Retired Colonel Denny Gator Yount clarified the necessity for such training, stating that A-10 pilots would ideally never have to execute BFM because the aircraft is intended for self-defense, leaving the F-15s or other defensive counter-air jets to intercept any threats. Startling results. Interestingly, in simulated dogfights between the A-10 Warthogs and other aircraft better suited for aerial combat against enemy planes, the latter often found themselves surprised by the impressive performance of the slow and low-flying A-10s. As Yount put it, quote, "Most pilots of other types didn't really understand our strengths until they fought us a few times. Regardless of their turn rate, the best turn radius will get the first shot opportunity. In that regard, the Warthog had the massive advantage of being able to fire first in a wide array of combat scenarios. The only fighter in the US military's arsenal that could match the A-10's performance is the thrust-vectoring F-22 Raptor. However, the F-22 would have to decelerate to around 300 knots to accomplish this, eliminating its speed advantage over the A-10. Even so, dogfights don't usually last long. In reality, if one pilot performs well, or the other fares poorly, a dogfight could last only as long as it takes for the two jets to complete a single loop after the merge, where they approach each other head-on. In simple terms, the A-10's ability to make tight turns enables it to align its nose with the enemy fighter more quickly than the enemy can aim its guns at it. Adding to the fighter's disadvantage, the A-10 is armed with a mighty 30mm GAU-8 cannon that can shoot down aircraft from a more considerable distance than the 20mm cannon usually installed on other fighters. In addition, many A-10s now carry two AIM-9M Sidewinder air-to-air missiles, making them even more capable of holding their own against other aircraft. So far, no cases have been reported of Warthogs having to dogfight their way out of a sticky situation. However, an A-10 scored 2 air-to-air hits against helicopters in Operation Desert Storm from a distance of about 1 mile. With the new training and focus on BFM, the A-10 Warthog might just have what it takes to become a fearsome and remarkable dogfighter in modern combat. Thanks for tuning in to Dark Skies. To keep up with more amazing military stories, please consider subscribing to our channel and hitting the notification bell. And if you're interested in exploring how technology was employed in some of the most brutal battles in history, click on your screen and check out our other Dark Documentaries channels. Stay tuned.